Previously on Redbeard's Garage. Cut a little bit off of this hose. Oh boy.
Is that in your way?
That should be okay right there. A few more wires to do up front, which is should be pretty quick. I always test and make sure. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's on there. That is on there. Like I said, one wire can go right there. Put the nut on it. Then the other one will go to the pressure sending unit. So massive shout out to karthatools.com for sending us out a bunch of tools. So they sent us out this massive Allen set. I got the 5-lane over there. So I know someone will be like, you're missing a 5, and I'm using a long 5, but it's got the long hex as well as star bits, has Torx bits, it has everything in it. And we've been needing this. It's been one of those tools that sits in my Amazon shopping cart. It's honestly been in there for years. So thank you, Kartha Tools. And he also sent us out vice grips, like a 9-piece set of vice grip. He sent us out a new set of Milwaukee. We got an impact as well as a electric ratchet. These things are crazy good because my porter cable has done us really well, but this thing has twice the juice that porter cable has, so it is nice. You gotta watch out when people like Lonnie's using it. You'll see on a later video. So you're not going to be able to really see this. It's going to suck. I think it's going to spill oil, but I will show you on another engine where this is located. This is the same. Yes, thank you. All these V-twins have this port as far as I know. So there's the little block off plug that was in it, and of course, oh boy, I'm going to keep this because it'll be handy for use on something else one year. So now I'm going to put some Teflon around the oil pressure sending unit, stab it in that same hole, and we'll show you what it looks like installed. It's really hard to, it's in a extremely hard to get place. Alright, so first try, I have found my throttle cable. So that was cool. So right now I'm going to run the throttle cable and start bleeding the brakes. Then we get the pedal hooked up, and then we'll hook up that. So Go Power Sport sells these premium 150 mufflers. We run this on the Zircon, and we actually have a couple to put on some mini bikes soon. But these things worked out perfect. We didn't even have to modify the header for the 150 other than notching one of the bolt holes so it would, because they're a little bit wider on a 670 than a 150. But the flange is shaped exactly the same. It's got nice 1.5 inch tubing, which is perfect. I didn't want to run 1 inch headers on this because of, you know, it being a performance 670. I wanted it to really flow some exhaust. So here's how our exhaust turned out. Braxton had the good idea of notching a piece of tube to brace this in between, and then we'll make 2 braces out of flat stock that bolt to the head just like the original muffler would. And then we have these clamps that come with the mufflers. What I'm thinking about doing is putting a clamp around this and welding a little flange on this brace for that clamp to bite down on. And then right here will come off with a, I don't know, maybe even a piece of tube with another one just to brace this up. Because when you flex the suspension, you know, of course the exhaust is going to go up and it has pivot side to side. But with the stock suspension, you're not going to have a ton of movement. So we should be okay. I think I can actually flex it. That's about your max over there. And you see it isn't close at all. We'll get this fully welded out, make our other brackets, and then we got to hook up the gas tank and put the seat on it. It should be ready to start. We already bled the brakes. I meant to film that, but this has been a long project. I'm ready to just ride the thing. Try not to cut any corners, which we haven't been, but you know, we're getting excited now. So I'm going to finish welding this out and hopefully be able to start it soon. I'll show you how we mount the gas tank in a minute. Alrighty, so what I have done is taken some 1-inch tubing and I've put a 1/2-inch nut inside of it, then drilled first I drilled a hole through the tubing, put a 1/2-inch nut in it, and you can see where I crimped it in a vise to hold it from spinning, and then I just put a plug weld on each side. So if you walk over to the buggy, it's hot in here, my glasses are fogging up. So I did the same thing. Right here. So I notched these, weld them all the way around. You can see I can just thread a 1/2-inch bolt right in there. I'm going to weld this one on the back side. I may have to trim this down just a hair, but this will be welded on this piece of flat stock that I put in here and give it 3 good mounts. And I really don't even need the 4th mount, but it's going to be a little bit of a pickle to make, so I may just leave the 3. I mean, this thing is never going to go anywhere. So, and you also notice we finished the Go Power Sports Performance exhaust on this thing. Man, that looks sweet. Oh my gosh, I don't know what that was. Oh yeah, I do know what it was. But now we have to make, so the 670 that burnt, we're almost 90% positive what happened was pulse pump was leaking. Because the 670, every time we leave it in the garage overnight, you know, this is connected to our house, so the kitchen door's right there. Our whole house would smell like fuel in the morning. We never did find a puddle on it or anything, but what was happening was the pulse pump, they use really cheap fuel lines on these Predators, and we believe the pulse pump was leaking and puddling up on top of the intake manifold, so, or on top of the, in between the heads. So when that 670 backfired, it lit that up and caught the thing on fire. Yeah, because all of our lines, once I really watched the videos, none of our fuel lines came loose, the one to the tank, but to keep that from happening, we removed the pulse pump off of the engine. It was behind the fan shroud, and we're going to mount it about right in here somewheres with the fuel filter. So everything's mounted to the frame, so the suspension can do its moving, but the only thing running to the engine is the fuel line, and we'll leave enough slack in it, you know, to be able to flex and stuff, because remember, this is a semi-independent, so it can go side to side. But with these stock shocks, there's not a ton of travel, so we don't have to worry about too much. When we put the bigger shocks on it, then we'll have to worry about the exhaust and stuff. Hopefully we don't have to tweak anything. Worst case Ontario, I can cut this back section bar out and V it down to clear the exhaust if we had to, because I really like this exhaust. And I'm probably going to extend this header out so they're just a little bit like 1 inch set back from each other. You know what I'm saying? I think it would look a lot better like that, and it'll keep this one from getting black or anything. And we'll send that header off and get it ceramic coated. I think that would be really sweet once we run this a little while and start doing the next build on it. So I'm going to weld this piece of tubing in, and we'll be that much closer to burning our fingers off because that piece of tubing caught. Okay, so everything is hooked up. The last thing we have to do is fix the seat, but we're going to give it a test fire. We haven't tried to start this thing at all, so we'll see. Let's choke it. Oh yeah, that's pretty sweet. It's louder than I thought with those performance mufflers on it. Whew! So now we need to fix the seat and we can go drive this thing and see if that, you know, we haven't fixed that bent spindle, so I'm hoping it don't affect our driving right now. Hopefully it just affects our how much we can steer, but I think it might make the alignment off. We'll just have to ride it and see. So let's get that seat fixed and we'll be riding this thing. So the Deuce is finally ride ready. You can see how I done the wiring. So I got a battery box, and then that box on top is actually off of the Super Scoot. So when you pull it open, it has basically, this is 12 volts all the time. This is hot constantly. A relay kicks this on so I can power things like gauges and all that jazz. And then we have the relay for our future light bar headlights, as well as the relay that turns on with the switch to power that small 12 volt rail. Now, like I said, we have a fuse box that also has relays in it, so that's double use. Have our 3 gauges. Our tack is not hooked up, it's just there. I mean, it's plugged up, but it isn't going to read any RPMs yet. We have to get a diode for it. I put a 100 amp breaker right there, and that's just in case anything ever happens. We can kill power going back to the engine, you know, to keep us from having a fire or anything. We put the choke down there, and as well, we have 2 buttons for later use for light bar and headlights, and our key switch. Then we have this sweet performance exhaust. I think that looks awesome, and we'll send this header off later on when we do more upgrades to the buggy and get it ceramic coated. And then the old 670 sitting down there. The catch can, we need to watch it, make sure it doesn't hit anything. I'll probably eventually mount the catch can to the side over there to keep it from bouncing with the engine. And then we used the Go Power Sports 150 style gas tank and just tapped it and put a standard 1/8 inch MPT 1/4 inch barb in it. You can see how I mounted it. It's mounted with 3 of those standoffs, which it's solid. And then we use Go Power Sports red fuel line. I really like this stuff. I'm gonna have to get more actually. I'm almost used it all. We use an automotive style fuel filter. We zip tied it, and since it's glass, we use a piece of fuel hose under it to keep it from rattling or busting. Then of course we got our pulse pump, and that's providing our engine with plenty of fuel. We have oil in it. We have our oil temperature teed in, as well as our oil pressure, so we need to make sure all that works. And yeah, she's ready to ride. I think it looks awesome. We've flexed the suspension. These exhausts is not going to hit. Nothing's going to hit whatsoever. So throw some GoPros on and go for a rip snot. All right, so we're ready to ride this hog. Go ahead and open the door. I hope nothing's behind the I have like no brakes. Yeah. So we definitely gotta check for power for these gauges. The voltage, of course, is working perfectly fine, but I need to see why this isn't getting a signal, and definitely bleed the brakes. I tell you, it's got a ton of power.
Yeah, I know you just spun back there when you...
It's loud too. It is crazy loud. Oh, I like it. I like it a lot. The steering isn't bad, just you don't have a whole lot of it. I like it. I like it a lot. So the Deuce was a success. I need to really get it in here and bleed the brakes and check on that oil pressure gauge, and also the temperature gauge never moved. So I either got a bad ground going to both gauges or a bad positive. I know both sending units shouldn't be bad. That would be a crazy fluke. I also just need to make sure my oil pump is working. That's why we only drove it a little bit on this video, was because without those gauges and without me testing and making sure the oil is actually building pressure, I didn't want to ride it anymore. So the thing almost rode a wheelie over the driveway with me and Braxton. The thing's got a ton of power, and I can't wait. Performance 670 sent us a set of ported heads that are milled 40 thousandths, new set of chromoly push rods, as well as a 34mm Mikuni, and that's supposed to be around the 10 horsepower jump for this engine. So very soon we'll be slapping that on. We're going to take it up to my brother's and ride it after I bleed the brakes and check on these gauges. So definitely stay tuned for future videos on this thing. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. The exhaust is awesome. It sounds like a monster truck driving around the yard, but we got some big plans for this Deuce. We got a new suspension for it, that Prius power steering rack. We're going to put a better seat in it and just make it like the ultimate rock crawling off-road buggy. So yeah, keep up with this build, and thank you guys for watching. Go check out all the links to all the parts, the performance parts, the parts from Go Power Sports. Everything's linked down below, and yeah, we'll see you on the next video. God bless. Redbeard's Garage is powered by GoPowersports.com. Go Power Sports has a huge amount of awesome go-kart and mini bike parts, and when making your purchase, use the Redbeard discount code in the upper right hand corner of your shopping cart to grab yourself a sweet deal. Hit that subscribe button and make sure the notification bell is on so you'll never miss another episode, and go check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Pinterest to stay up to date with the channel. Guys, always come back to Redbeard's Garage. I'm out.